Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening. Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. Good to be here with you tonight.
All right. This is good. We're recording it on the new platform called Riverside. Somehow we all made it without any IT glitches. But it's been a while since we did a podcast, and this time we're going to shift our focus to golf. We still have tennis, the French Open tennis that's going to be coming soon. But for now, the weekend, uh, the week it starts tomorrow at Valhalla. So, Dan, your initial thoughts on the 106th PGA Championship at Valhalla, and then we can slowly get into our picks, both your winners, our sleeper picks. Then we usually do the Tiger Phil thing, but I think this is going to be a fun tournament. So I'll give you the floor. It's the first time the PGA Championship is returning to Valhalla in about a decade. So your thoughts on the golf course, and then we can start getting into the field, and we can discuss who's going to win and who are the
Yeah, sure thing.
not named Rory.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for handing over the floor to me. A couple of thoughts just on Valhalla. I just did a little bit of quick research before we went live here, just as far as what kind of history Valhalla holds in the golf major championship world. So there's been 3 prior PGA championships at Valhalla. The first was back in 1996. Followed by one in 2000, and then again one in 2014. So, like you said, it's been about 10 years since they've had a major championship return there. So back in 2000, there was the memorable PGA Championship that Tiger won in a playoff over the little-known May. I think his name was Mark May at the time. That was a memorable putt that Tiger made, I believe, on the 18th hole, the final hole of regulation to force the playoff. And then there was also a Ryder Cup in 2008 that was hosted there that the U.S. won pretty easily over Europe. So that was on U.S. soil. The U.S. won easily that Ryder Cup back in 2008. And then the last PGA Championship was in 2014, as you alluded to, and that featured Rory as the winner. And Rory at that time was on a complete hot streak. I think he had just won the British Open that year as well, they said, and he had won the PGA Championship 2 years earlier I think it was at Kiowa. That was his first PGA Championship that he won. So Valhalla marked his second PGA championship that he'd won in 3 years. That was back in 2014, like you said. And people thought, wow, he's got 4 majors now. He's going to be up to 8 or 9 in no time, and then be threatening Tiger. And lo and behold, what do you know? 10 years later, how many majors has Rory won? A big fat 0, as many as I have in the last 10 years. So that's kind of a little just brief primer on the history of Valhalla. I did hear on the Golf Channel the other day that they were thinking about making this the last major there for some reason. I'm not sure why the PGA is thinking of this being the last one that's going to be at Valhalla. I don't know if they don't like the course for some reason, but all the commentators, it was Gary Williams and a few other former pro golfers that were on this podcast. They said they sure hope that this is not the last time that Valhalla hosts a major, because there's been so much history there between the previous great PGA finishes and then the Ryder Cup as well. So, so that's kind of a little overview of Valhalla and what it holds in golf history, and then we can move on to some picks if you want for this tournament.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, this has got an extraordinary field with some of the top PGA professionals as well as all the LIV Tour guys. This is the time that you can see both the golfers from both the LIV Tour and PGA participating. And this is the famous, let's see who takes home the Wanamaker Trophy on Sunday. So let's start with the field. I'll start with some of the names, and then we can get down to it. Rory is just coming up a huge win in the Wells Fargo. Scottie Scheffler, obviously he's been red hot. He won the last 4 of the 5 starts. and he's been tending to some personal matters, including the birth of his first child. Koepka is actually he's a PGA champion from last year. He's dominated Live Golf, so and Koepka has always been a top contender. So you do have Scottie Scheffler, Koepka, McIlroy, and then the whole slew of young kids like Ludwig Aberg, and then we got DeChambeau, Wyndham Clark, John Rahm, just to name a few. We'll get to Tiger and Phil eventually. So let's get to your um, expert pick on who's going to take home the Wanamaker Trophy, and then we can also talk about the sleeper after you're done with the winner.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I'm gonna go out on a big limb again here. I'm gonna go with my boy Scottie Scheffler to win it all. I'm gonna go with him until he loses. Put it that way. How can you not? He's the hottest golfer in the world right now. Hottest golfer we've had in years. Since maybe one of the Tigers, historic runs, where Scheffler's just dominating, and his driving and ball striking, and tee to green has been so consistent the last couple of years, and he's finally found now that putter over the last 3-4 months. So once he's got that putter to go along with his tee to green game, which is second to none, he's really unbeatable. When he's putting well, he can lap the field. When he's putting average, he'll be a contender. So like you said, he's had some personal issue, good family issues the last few weeks, just waiting for his wife to deliver, and baby finally came on. I think this past weekend as it hasn't really been made too public, but they're keeping things rather private. But baby came last over the weekend, from what I understand. So he'll be out there, and I'm sure he wasn't at home, just sitting at home idle the last few weeks. I'm sure he was out at his home course, working on all aspects of his game, staying fresh. So I'm gonna go with Scheffler just because he's the hottest golfer out there. When he's putting well, which even if he putts average, he'll still be a contender. And if he putts remotely in the top 10 or 15 for the week, he could run away with this thing. So that's my pick as far as to win the tournament. Why don't you go ahead and do your pick, and then we can talk about who we think some other contenders are as well.
Yeah, sure. I think since you picked Scotty, I would have loved to pick Scotty, but to me, I would go with the other player who I think could win, and this could be a guy, Kepka, who's coming hot off a live win. Like I said, he was dominating the live tour. He just won that I read in Singapore. And Kepka is, he's been red hot, of all the golfers out there. And there's no doubt in my mind that he could easily get to back PGA wins here, PGA Championship. The one thing that would concern, at least from Kepka, is that there are too many good golfers out there. The young guns are, starting to, take it. Aber, I mean, who's been red hot. He was one of the darlings. I mean, he finished second in the Masters too, and he's someone who would definitely, in the top. So it's going to be very tough for a lot of these golfers, and Rory's playing well too. Man, I was going to pick Rory based on his Wells Fargo performance, especially on the last day. I think he won running away, if I'm not mistaken. But I think Kepka has been one of the dominant players in the golf ever since he came to the scene, and I do think that he would be my pick to win back-to-back PGA Championship. Um, and your thoughts on my pick, and I'll chime in on yours as well.
Yeah. So no, I think Kepka is gonna be one of my. If we did a category of you have to pick a live golfer to win this, I would have probably gone to Kepka. I mean, that's not going out on a limb. He's hot. He's kind of dominated the live tour of late. And if you just look at his record overall, as far as I think he's got 5 majors now. I think two US Opens, 3 PGA Championships, and he's won maybe 2 or 3 other PGA Tour events total. He's won a bunch on the live. It sounds like now, but he's a guy who just brings it when it comes to these majors. He's just got a game built for the majors, whatever whatever that cliche means. But he just brings it when it comes to the majors, and just doesn't really care as much, I guess, about the other PGA Tour events back in the day. So he's just ice in his veins when it comes to majors, when it comes to putting, and just making the shots when he needs to. So I think that's a great pick. I was going to go out. He was going to be one of my picks as well. I think he was probably very upset after his showing at the Masters. I don't believe he made the cut even at the Masters. I think I don't think he made it to the weekend. So I'm sure he was not happy with that performance, and he's probably, he's probably really on a mission right now to prove that that was just a fluke not making the cut there, and that I think he'll be on the leaderboard on Sunday when we're all watching the back nine. And since you mentioned, it's funny how you mentioned Roy, you were thinking about picking him. He's a player, unfortunately, even though he played well this weekend. He's still at number 2 in the world or 3 in the world, so we can't really knock him too much. But the fact is, he has not won a major in 10 years. That says something about, just not, as far as being a choker, for lack of a better word, when it comes to the big tournaments. He hasn't really fared well at all in the majors of late. A lot of missed cuts. And I think he's one player who, like I said about Scheffler, I'm going to pick him until he loses. Well, I don't think I'm going to pick Rory ever until he proves that he can win. I don't have trust. I don't have faith in him. And that also goes along with Xander Schauffele, who, even though he's a great player, a great ball striker, something about when it comes to Sundays at the big tournaments, he just, for some reason, he feels the pressure. And I think he just can't perform on Sundays. So I was looking at the DraftKings right now. DraftKings have, Scheffler number 1 as the favorite, and then followed closely by Rory and Xander. And those are two guys I would not put a penny on, just because I don't have faith in them until they prove they can do it. So I love your Koepka pick. I think that's a great one. He's a guy who I would definitely put my paycheck on.
Yeah, I mean, going to your pick on Scottie, you kind of alluded to this, but he has a month layoff. Again, he's been like I said, red hot golfer. He's a world number 1, winner of the 4 out of the 5, and I think there was even the other tournament he finished second. If I'm not mistaken. If his putting was red hot, he would have won all 5. I would say compare him to Nelly Korda on the women's side. He's definitely widened the gap in my mind in terms of rest of the golfers. Will there be some kind of rust, for him because of his personal, baby issues? But you never know. And he's been rock solid. So let's now quickly go to our sleeper picks. Who do you think are your sleeper picks? And I think I'm pretty much going to tell who it is going to be for me, because I think I stood with that guy in the Masters, so I'm going to kind of stay with that. But
Okay.
I want to hear yours.
All right, I'll let you have yours because I think I know who you're gonna name. His initials I think are L.A., but I'll let you keep your guy there. He did have a good finish at the Masters, but I'm gonna go not with huge sleepers, but a little further down on the list here. I'm gonna go 2 guys. If I had to pick, one's gonna be PGA, one's Live.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Colin Morikawa on the PGA, from the PGA side. He's won 2 majors. It's been a couple of years also since he's done anything as far as the majors. He's struggled a little bit over the last year. He got his first major during COVID out in San Francisco at Harding Park at the PGA Championship, followed a couple of years later at the British Open. I'm not sure if it was St. Andrews or I forget which of the British Open courses where Colin got his claret jug at. So he's got 2 majors, and he's been playing good of late too. He's, the knock on his game is usually the putter a little bit too. He can be a little shaky with the short putts, but ball striking wise, he's as good as anyone out there. And he had a good showing at the Masters. I believe he was up there in the leaderboard top 5, and then also I believe at the down in the Players Championship that Scottie won down in Sawgrass. I believe that Colin Morikawa was up on that leaderboard as well. So he's been playing good over the last few months. And he was, I think, also right there down at Hilton Head, also at the Heritage. So that's one of my sleeper picks. And then I'm also going to go with from the Live Tour. One of my favorite players over the years, I'm still upset that he left, was Cam Smith. British Open champion, just a solid golfer, kind of just a good happy-go-lucky kind of guy. Just I liked his whole manner out there on the golf course, just the way he approached golf, and just his personality was just, I thought, really good for the, didn't get too high, didn't get too low out there. Just a nice, even-keeled guy, Australian. And so yeah, I'm not really sure how he's been doing on the Live Tour. I really haven't followed the Live Tour too closely, but I think he had a decent showing at the Masters. Cam Smith, I think he was top 10 actually, and I just one of my favorite players in the last few years before he left to go live. So I would like to see him back on the leaderboard, be able to watch him a little bit on Sunday. So those are my two sleeper picks.
Yeah, I think you already nailed my sleeper pick, Ludwig Eberg. So I
Yeah.
will go with that. But if you're going to ask me to pick the pick on the Live Tour, I was kind of debating between Bryson DeChambeau
Well,
and
you have
then
Kepka already from the live, so if you want to go another PGA guy, that's fine.
I'll do the other PGA guy. In that case, you know what? I might actually go with the um, for the regular PGA. I'll go with Ludwig, and I'll go with Wyndham Clark. How about another a winner, Grand Slam winner anyway. A Grand Slam, one of the
Major, yeah, another
major
major.
winners. So those are my two picks. I would go with. Uh, so you have uh, Scotty Scheffler, then you got
Morikawa and Cam
Morikawa,
Smith.
Sam Smith, and I have,
Kepka
and then I'm going with Ludwig and Wyndham Clark.
and
So let's
Wyndham.
see if that comes to fruition. All right, then we go to the others. I mean, before we always talk about Tiger and Phil, but now I think we have to bunch. I would even put Rory in that mix now because he's a guy who was not won, like you said, in 10 years, which is so surprising. Um, I'm glad he won the tournament in Wells Fargo, but a lot of the personal issues that he's going through right now. Do you think he'd be in contention going into Sunday? Let's start with Rory first, and then Tiger and Phil. I don't expect them to make any
Yeah.
noise, but
Yeah.
let's talk about Rory
As
and
far as Rory, yeah, gosh, I really wouldn't be surprised either way. I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, obviously, if he's in contention because he's, number two player in the world. He's best driver of the golf ball ever, possibly. I would not be surprised, obviously, if he's there in contention on Sunday. But along those same lines, I wouldn't be surprised if he was way back just because of his faring, the way he's fared in recent majors. Where he's had a few missed cuts, and then where he just hasn't even been relevant. He's maybe put up a good Sunday, score, but that's because he wasn't even relevant going into Sunday, so the pressure was off. So he posted a good score, but there was no pressure to do so. So I don't have a great feel, like I said, for how it's going to go with Rory. I would have to, if I had to say yes or no, I would say yeah, he'll probably be top 10. If you had to pin me down to an answer, I would say he's probably gonna be top 10, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. If regardless of how it goes. What do you think about Rory's chances?
well, I think I always try to pick Rory in in one of these podcasts sometimes, and he's not really lived up to that. Um, and I think he's getting old. I mean, you see a lot of the young golfers making a big run into this thing, whether it's like Ludwig or Wyndham Clark or Xander. I mean, we didn't even mention Xander so far, and he's actually played pretty well. He was actually in contention for the Wells Fargo until Rory beat him. Um, to me, Rory, something happens on the last day, and I just can't put a pulse on it. Whether and this is a guy who has won four, and interestingly, Kepka actually, I'm sure Kepka did not even have a major before Rory won. Like Rory had four, and Kepka has already surpassed him with five right now. So, uh, until Rory, like you said, right, until he proves that he can actually, win another one. And I think it's just could be a case where I think even in the Netflix series Full Swing, someone did mention that he has to win the next one, the fifth one, and then the sixth one may come after that. But he just cannot himself over the top there. So I'm not. That's where I feel about Rory. But let's quickly go to, I mean, instead of maybe Tiger and Phil this time, who else do you think could get in the top five?
Well, I mean, I would just one other thing I'd like to bring up before top five is two people that have had great showings. Well, number one has had a couple PGA championships we don't even talk about anymore. Is Justin Thomas. He's a player who's just fallen off kind of the face of the earth over the last years. He really had a poor year last year, and then there was a lot of controversy surrounding his selection to the Ryder Cup team. Remember that? A lot of by Zach Johnson. He got selected just because I think of his historical showing at the Ryder Cup, and then he had a real poor showing once he got there. He did not play well, and he's had a few, I think, good showings this year, a few top tens, but no victories recently. And then the other guy that you're probably thinking I'm going to talk about for a minute here is my favorite player from going back a couple of years was Jordan Spieth. There's a guy who's got, I think, 3 majors, and he's going for the career slam. I guess they're calling it the career Grand Slam. He's already won the U.S. Open, the PGA. I'm sorry, U.S. Open, the British Open, and the Masters. So this will be the 4th leg, and he's been trying to do it now for about, I think, 7 or 8 years. And initially it was really talked about every year leading up to the PGA, his chance of winning, but it hasn't been in the news at all recently, just because once again his game has really slipped over the last year and a half. It's been a couple of years, I think, almost since he's won a PGA Tour event, and he's a guy who one of my favorites. So I do look at his scores every tournament, and it's just weird. He'll start off good, like on a Thursday, he'll put up a 66, and then come Friday he'll do a 73, and then Saturday, a 68, and Sunday a 75. So he's just so kind of Jekyll and Hyde all over the place. No consistency, unfortunately, and if you listen to all his comments and quotes, he feels like he's saying, "Oh, my game is there. I feel like it's right there." But I don't know. Kind of sounds like a broken record now, unfortunately, when he keeps on saying the same thing, and you just don't see the performance change. So I don't think Spieth's gonna be a top 5, no. But I really think it'd be amazing for TV and for the ratings if you got like a Spieth or a Thomas up there along with Scheffler on the leaderboard come Sunday. So if I had to pick a couple other guys who maybe would be there top 5 on Sunday. I mean, I'm looking right now, just scrolling through my list here on DraftKings. I mean, no one's really hopping out at me. One guy who I was shocked after last year is not contending this year is Victor Hovland. Remember how hot he ended the year? He won all the FedEx playoff. He was on fire, blowing the field away. And then they said he made a small change I think he changed coaches or made a small change in his swing in the offseason. And the question begs why. He was the best player in the world at the end of the year almost, and why would he even attempt to make any changes to his game? So I don't think he's going to be top 5 either. He just has not done anything this year. You got guys like Max Homa, who solid. Maybe he can make a little showing in the top 5. Patrick Cantlay, who's been solid over the years, a guy who's always been top 5, top 10 in the majors, but never quite been able to, get the trophy. Maybe like a Cantlay, a Max Homa, maybe they could be like a top 5 and, maybe threaten on Sunday. But anyone else that you see that you might think leaderboard on Sunday that I haven't talked about?
So I know I talked about Xander, and you also mentioned Victor Hovland. The other couple of other, we didn't even mention John Rahm. I mean,
Yes.
And then this is the guy you picked as one of your sleepers,
Yeah.
Neiman,
Neiman,
Masters, and you actually also referenced Max Homa as well. And then the other person that comes to my mind is Zalatoris. I mean, I know he did have a playoff loss 2 years ago. I mean, I can't even remember. People have kind of forgotten about him, that he lost in the playoffs, and then he had some kind of, from what I heard, he had some injury, and then he kind of fell off the face, and then, but he's kind of feeling good right now. I mean, but I'm not going to put him in the top 5, but a top 10 maybe for him will be a good result for him as well. And I think we did talk about DeChambeau as well, so a little bit. So there are some of those guys that I would say, rounding off the top 5. obviously I picked, I said Wyndham for my sleeper, but Zalatoris, and then like you mentioned Homa as well, and then you mentioned Victor Hovland. That's another golfer who was red hot for a while. Not didn't win a major, but he was definitely in the top five
Yeah.
in a few of those championships. So, and then we come to the eventual our last question of the day, which would be: would Tiger or Phil make the cut? I mean, right now it's not about would they finish in the top 10. It is just for purposes of fan interest, especially for Tiger
Yeah.
Masters. He was able to make the cut, but then he kind of fell off. I mean, the good thing is like he managed to finish the round. That's a positive thing for Tiger. But your thoughts on if Tiger or Phil make the cut in the
I,
championship?
I would say yes to Phil and no to Tiger. I th- I think Phil. The only reason is because at least he's been out there playing. At least he's got the reps. He's been out on the live tour. He hasn't been doing great, but I think he's also a guy who, when it comes to the majors, there's just something extra that something in him that gets lit that really pushes him to perform well at the majors. So I could see him having a decent performance. Not decent, not like threatening the leaderboard or anything like that, but making the cut is what we're talking about. So I could see him certainly making the cut. Tiger, I don't see, I don't think so. I think what helped him so much at the Masters was his familiarity with that course. Obviously, he knows that course like the back of his hand. So I think that just was worth, that's worth several strokes when it comes to making the cut. This course, yeah, he's played at Valhalla, over the years. He won there in 2000. He was victorious as part of the U.S. team for the Ryder Cup in 2008. So, he's got some positive mojo when it comes to Valhalla, and so he definitely likes the course. But the fact that he just doesn't play much anymore competitively, I think that's just such a huge, huge detriment. It's just hard to, bring your game and get up for the big moments and then make those putts when they count, when you just don't have any, you're playing with your son or playing some, for a few dollars with your friends at the local country club, probably more than a few dollars, but you know what I mean? To Tiger, it's the equivalent of a few dollars. It's just not the same as when you're in a competitive field against the best in the world, against, the 140 or 150, whatever it is, best golfers in the world. So yeah, so to answer your question, I could see Phil making the cut of the two. That's my take on that.
I would agree with you, although it'll be a fun thing to kind of see Tiger, make the cut on Saturday. But I feel that again, with Phil going to the Live Tour, we don't see much of him on the regular tour. I mean, at least with Tiger, you did see him in the Masters. You saw him in Genesis, although he had to withdraw that tournament. You still see him on the tour. Um, but with Phil, I mean, I'm like you said. I mean, I'm going out on the limb and saying, okay, Phil makes the cut, Tiger doesn't make the cut. But I did have one trivia question for you. Um, who won the last um, PGA Championship at Valhalla? Name the golfer.
Well, that was Rory, which we
Okay.
mentioned, right? 2014, right? Now I mentioned that was his last tournament one. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So that's a good thing. So maybe he can
yeah,
rekindle some of that magic.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think if this is going to be the last one, like you mentioned, it's going to be interesting how they ride off into the sunset.
I mean, yeah, for TV purposes, I can't imagine a better Sunday than the final pairing being like Rory and Scheffler right now. 1-2 in the world. Rory, is a lot of people's favorite still, and Scheffler's kind of the new darling also of golf. So what a final pairing that would be for Sunday if those two were in the final group. Yeah, it'd be fun to watch those two, and I would think Scheffler will beat him by a mile.
Yep, I agree with
The
that.
two of them, I can see Rory missing every putt and Scheffler just coming through, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, but I did, I was kind of texting you in Wells Fargo where Rory just pulled out from
Yeah.
the bunker. It was
Hmm.
kind of, I mean, it was great to see it live, and I mean, I think he still has a great fan following. It's just that it'll be fun to see both of them in the final pairing. But this is good in terms of like your analysis, and let's see if our predictions come true, and we'll go from there. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Enjoy the championship.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.